by GN and Co.
Sure, gang, welcome back to yet another episode of After School is After School with your girl, Sis G.U. To those that are at home, I hope that you guys are well. And to those that are passing by, alright, I hope you like what you see and you join the gang, please. I hope you like what you see and you join the gang, please. I hope you watch ya and you join the gang, please. Alright, gang, I hope that you guys are well at home. Today's episode is a little bit of a short one, but I kind of wanted to introduce the segment to you guys. And I guess it's a bit of a continuation from my episode with Calvin, just in that we had spoken about the things that we're wanting to close the door on and things that we're opening the door to in 2025. I wanted to give some context as to some of the things that I said in the episode that maybe didn't make some sense, or rather to shed some light so it makes more sense. But last year was a very challenging year for me when it came to content creation. It had a lot to do with the changes that I was facing in my life, me changing as a person, my situations and circumstances changing, some family things. But there was also something that I was going through medically that was hindering me from creating. And if I'm actually being honest, I think that I've kind of been dealing with this for the past 2 years. And I've decided to speak about it because I no longer want to have the shame of it hold me back. Yeah, it is something that I have been struggling with. It is something that I definitely see myself conquering this year, and something I want to shed some light on because I know that there may be other people who struggle with the same thing that I struggle with, or who may even suffer from this condition that may not know. So I mentioned in my episode with Candice that I suffer from PCOS. Guys, bear with me. I have my phone so I can, you know what I'm saying, read some things. PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. PCOS is a common hormone condition that affects women of reproductive age. It usually starts during adolescence, but symptoms may fluctuate over time. So I was diagnosed with PCOS in 2025 now, in 2022. Yeah, in 2022. But I kind of knew something was wrong in 2021. Again, for some context, I had been on birth control, different birth controls from about 2017, 2018. And I first started with the injection. I did not have a good time. The water retention was bonkers. Yeah, my period was fluctuating. And then when I was kind of weaning off of the injection, I found myself spotting quite a bit. So I didn't enjoy that. So I knew that I was not going to go back to that contraceptive method. I then went to actually go see my gynecologist because when I went on the injection, that was me just trying to find what I could do, you know? And also, I was very scared to have the conversation with my mom because as soon as you mention contraception, especially to your Black parents, they think that you're doing the most. And keep in mind, I was at varsity in this time. So yeah, and I mean, to be frank, at the time, I did want to be on a contraceptive to protect myself. But yeah, when I realized that wasn't working for me, I spoke to my mom and I told her I wanted to be on the pill. And my reasons for being on the pill was the fact that I could see that my period was irregular. And I wanted to make it regular, and also for my skin. I wanted to clear some of my skin up. So cool, we saw my doctor, we saw my gynae, and then I was put on a pill. I can't actually remember what pill I was on, but it treated me really, really well. I was happy with it. I took it every day, almost every day at about the same time. So yeah, good experience. And then 2021, towards the end of 2021, I had been thinking about taking a break from the pill because I was just like, I'm on this thing. I don't actually think I need to use it right now. Nothing is happening in my life like that. And I don't want to actually just be on a contraceptive for the sake of being on one. As much as I really was enjoying the fact that my skin was clearing and my periods were regular, I also knew that I wanted my body to be able to operate normally by itself, you know? So let me see what going when I'm not taking all these hormones every other day. Or rather actually every day. So I spoke to my gynecologist and she was like, okay, cool, we can wean you off of the pill. And we did that. And in the first few months of no longer being on the pill, guys, I saw my ass. I had symptoms that I had never dealt with before. My period was incredibly irregular, more irregular than what it was before. I was swelling. I had a lot of pimples and hormonal acne. I had more facial hair grow. yeah, I just knew something was up. But just like that time where I had taken myself off of the injection, I thought that like, you know what, this is my body just readjusting. If I give it some time, things will be fine. But the more time that passed, I almost felt like my symptoms got worse. And the symptom that worried me the most was not having my period on the regular, because I was like, no, 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 no. Something is beating water. So yeah, 2021, I'm kind of in this phase of like, I know something is wrong. I don't really know what to do about it. 2022, I'm getting my dates wrong, but 2022 is actually when I was diagnosed, not 2021. 2022, going through the year again, not feeling the best. Also, my weight fluctuates quite a bit, but I feel like I've always known how to manage it and I've always known how to go about losing weight. So in 2022, I picked up some weight and I thought to myself, you know what? I really want to lose this weight again. Let me get back into it. And I pushed myself via my diet, via gym, via all of these restrictions, and I could not shed the weight. And that's when I was like, okay, no, something is definitely up, because what is this about? You know, normally when I want something to happen, you go about doing things in a certain way and it happens. And that wasn't the case. So towards the end of 2022 was when I had heard of PCOS. And I thought to myself, you know what? I might as well go see a doctor, see what Guan, do the test and see if I really do suffer from PCOS. So towards the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, I saw a doctor. And I believe he is a specialist. But guys, my experience was not cute. No shade to the doctor. I mean, the man was doing his job, but damn, was he honest. So as soon as I walk into the office, again, he is a PCOS specialist. I sit down, I explain my symptoms, and I tell him like, yo, I actually do think I suffer from PCOS. And he looks at me and he says, I can tell that you do. And I was like, excuse me? What do you mean that you can tell that I do? And he said, yeah, I can see the symptoms on you. And that made me feel incredibly insecure, because not only was I dealing with the fact that I might suffer from this thing, but now I was aware that you could see it on me. And that made me feel really uncomfortable. And again, obviously in hindsight, I understand that he is a professional and he is a specialist. So he does have the eye to spot it out a lot better than what anyone else would, but it still didn't take away the shitty feeling of just feeling like, wow, my PCOS is wearing me, and it felt like it was just written on my forehead. So cool. He says, no, I think you have PCOS. You need to do some blood tests. And from there, you will either see a dietitian or you'll be put on medication, and we'll take it from there. And in PCOS, there are different reasons for it and different things that cause it. And one of them is that you could be insulin resistant. And this was something that was very scary to me, because I was like, oh my goodness, I know if you're insulin resistant, you definitely go on metformin, your whole life changes via diets and so forth. So my test results came back and I wasn't insulin resistant. So it was just a hormonal condition on my end. I honestly do suspect that I have had PCOS for some time, even before I was on the pill, even maybe before I was on the injection. But because I was taking contraceptives, those hormones were covering up what my body was naturally going through. And I'm not going to lie, it was nice being on the pill, especially via your hormonal acne, your facial hair, your period being on time. All of these things seem managed. Not even seem, all of them are managed during that time. But I knew that I didn't want to be dependent on something. So I now have the diagnosis. I knew that I wanted to go about things in a more like natural way, I guess. So I saw an endocrinologist. Is that the word? Yes, I saw an endocrinologist, and we ran a series of tests. First of all, those tests were so expensive. I think all of my blood tests were about 7,000 Rand. And I had taken out my own medical aid at the time, baby. So I was paying for all of that. And I remember just feeling extremely flustered by how much I had to do and how much it was. And also then realizing that with a condition like PCOS, and if you're wanting to get help, that help was expensive, you know? And I was very fortunate that I could afford to take care of myself and do the blood tests that I needed. But I was very aware that there are many people who may be in the same situation or position that I was in, who would not be able to afford to go that route. So I saw my endocrinologist, we ran my test back. She also confirmed that, yes, I do have PCOS. And then we looked at different ways in which I could go about managing it. And the past 2 years has been me trying to manage it. But if I'm honestly keeping it a buck, I think the past 2 years have been riddled by my PCOS. It has been something that I have been incredibly insecure about. It has been something that I did not want to share with anyone. And I know that I was incredibly insecure about it because it stopped me from creating as often as what I know I should have been. And I think my consistency took a dip because of the fact that my job is in front of the camera. It is to be around people. And I'm not the kind of babe who always wants to rely on wearing makeup to hide certain things, you know? I've always kind of liked the idea of showing up in my natural self just because I want to. And that's how I want to show up on that day. So yeah, I kind of stopped creating as much. I stopped vlogging as much. You guys obviously don't necessarily know all my symptoms and all my insecurities when it comes to my PCOS, but I knew them, and I felt like just sticking a camera in my face was the last thing I wanted to do. I am also someone who really likes to deal with things alone and then kind of come out when I've dealt with them. And I couldn't do that with my PCOS because of my line of work. And I tussled with God a lot about this, because I was just like, bro, I have this thing. I don't know what to do. You're also calling for me to be in this space. And it's a space that I really wish I did not have to be in. If it were up to me, guys, I promise you, I think I would have honestly taken a whole year off, kind of dealt with it, did what I needed to do, and then come back when I felt better. I do feel better about it now, but I think the reason I've chosen to speak up about it is because it doesn't define me. And it's also not something that is worth being embarrassed or ashamed of. It is a condition that I have. It is a condition that I will definitely still thrive with. It is something I plan on overcoming. And I have definitely seen improvements when it does come to my symptoms via some of the life changes that I've made, or rather lifestyle changes that I've made. But yeah, and I think with me wanting to reintroduce myself to the Genge and almost reintroduce this version of myself, I found it really important to address that and to speak on it, because yeah, I think the things that we don't really address have a lot of power over us, because there's a lot of shame and guilt. And once you vocalize it, once you own it, once you kind of put it out there, it can't be held over you anymore. And that's not to say that anyone was holding anything over me, but it was myself. I was holding it over myself. So yeah, I guess this is me letting the Genge in on my journey. So far, so good. I do work with a dietitian now. PCOS is very interesting because even when you do try to lose weight, which helps with your symptoms, you can't necessarily go about losing weight in the traditional sense. Being that like be on a very strict and restrictive diet, work out insanely hard, don't eat much. None of those things help, because your cortisol is going to spike, and in your cortisol spiking, your body then holds onto the food and the water that is currently there. And a lot of water retention happens as well. So it's been a very interesting journey in that I've had to relearn how to take care of my body. I have had to speak goodness and positivity over myself many times. I've had to hype myself up to make myself feel good. And also I've had to remind myself that regardless of my symptoms and the new scars that I have, I'm still worthy and I'm still beautiful, and I shouldn't have to hide my face, and it shouldn't take away from me doing my job. So I am in a better place with it now. We will definitely have more episodes like this where we get into it a little bit more, where we speak about treatments, where we talk about the supplements that I've been taking, the changes that I've made to my diet, and just how I'm feeling overall. I know PCOS has also been linked to anxiety and depression, just in that your hormones are fluctuating. So naturally, emotionally, you are also going through it. And you guys know that I did suffer from anxiety. I do not claim that for myself. Or rather, let me say that you guys do know that I have moments where I have been anxious, and those moments still come up. And I do think my PCOS had exacerbated that for me, in that I was that much more anxious. I was that much more sad. I was that much more critical of myself. And I was just really in my head. So me vocalizing it is me getting out of my head. And if there's anyone else who has PCOS, I want you guys to know that you're not alone. We're going to go on this journey together. We're going to share the tips that we learn together, and we're going to thrive. I think 2025 is about thriving for me, in spite of everything, in spite of the past versions of yourself, in spite of the things that you may suffer from, in spite of your traumas, all of it. It's choosing to build a new life for yourself, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So, to my PCOS girlies, you are not alone. I look forward to taking you guys on this journey and sharing as much as what I can with you guys. But yeah, from me to you, all love, always.
Brought to you by GN and Co.